Alright class, this is Mr. Fitzgerald, and this is the video lesson pertaining to the principle of rhythm. It's based on the article that you're reading, the worksheet you're going to complete tonight, called Rhythm and Movement, or actually Movement and Rhythm is the way it's called on the article. This one is a little bit different. It talks about movement and rhythm as being separate principles. We're going to, though, in class, we're actually going to be talking about rhythm as the principle, and then movement as being a very important part of rhythm, but not its own principle. The reason being is because the ideas of the principles of art and design is that somehow all of the principles are being somehow they're being used somehow in the artwork. Somehow they're being addressed. It might not be the exact way that we're used to seeing it being used, but it's somehow being addressed. Movement, the way that the book, or the way that this book talks about movement, is not always used in artwork, but rhythm is. Rhythm is. So we're going to look at rhythm as being the principle, and the movement being a very important part of that principle. At first, I'm going to read you the questions, so you can have them in the back of your brain, so that when you hear the information, you can go ahead, take a note, highlight, answer the question, whatever you need to do, so that by the time you're finished with the video, you could be done, with your homework, if that's how you want to work. But I want you to be able to be thinking about that the questions, so that you'll know the answer when you hear it. All right, so the first question is you're going to answer is, what is movement? So what is movement? And then, what is rhythm? What is rhythm? And then you're going to ask, this is kind of a long question, but what does an artist create by repeating an object over and over? So it says object, but it can be any kind of color or anything, any shape. But what does an object, what does an artist create by repeating an object over and over? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read the information. All right, so have you ever thrown a rock in a pond and watched the concentric circles that followed? Concentric meaning, every point, you throw a rock in a pond, circle, bigger circle, bigger circle, bigger circle, bigger circle, bigger circle, bigger circle. That's on the outside. So small circle that just keeps on, circles coming out. Concentric circles. Have you traveled down the highway and watched the telephone lines pass by, the telephone poles? These are two examples of movement and rhythm. In this lesson, you'll learn about the principles of movement and rhythm. Like I said, you'll learn about movement, but you'll learn about the principle of rhythm. All right, movement. You live in an age of special effects, all right? Computer stuff and computer effects in movies and such. When you go to the movies nowadays, you see strange life forms arriving from different galaxies. You see humans traveling backward in time or dancing with cartoon figures. These amazing sights and others like them are possible only through creative imaginations and special effects. A lot of the movies that you've seen that come out, they have to do them with special effects. Sometimes it'd be extremely hard, sometimes impossible to create with a puppet and stuff. So, or with real life actors. So you have to use these computer graphics and such. In art, special effects are nothing new. Artists have been using them for a long time. They talk about special effects. What it's talking about is pretty much the principles of art. Using art to create things that aren't really there, and you'll see what it's talking about. One of these effects is movement. All right, movement is the principle of art that leads the viewer to sense action in a work, or it can be the path the viewer's eye follows through a work. All right, so like I said, movement is very important, but I don't think it's a principle of art because of this, because not all artwork has movement in it. But I want you to look First, it says, artists create movement through a careful blending of elements like line and shape. I want you to look at that figure 13 or 513 underneath the text. This is what it's talking about. You know, you have a flat sheet of paper, then you have drawing on that paper. You have lines and shapes. And with those lines and shapes, they create the idea. That's what's talking about the special effects. They create the idea that you have a guy pedaling, you know, and moving, actually moving, but it's just lines and shapes on a page. It's not really, there's not really a guy pedaling on a bicycle, all right? It's just lines and shapes, but they create that effect, the idea of movement, all right? Now, that is, like I said, that's very important, the idea of movement, the idea of it looks like something's moving, but it's not the principle, because some art does not have that, does not intend for it to look like there's movement on the page. But then it says that the second part of the definition is or it can be the path the viewer's eye follows through that work. I want you to think about that, the path that your eye follows, all right? That's very closely tied to rhythm. If you look in the bottom right corner of that picture, you see these kind of circular shapes and the different lines, and it kind of draws your eye from that bottom right, that kind of right side to the left. So that kind of adds to that idea. That's rhythm, and that kind of adds that idea of this cyclist moving, you know, from the right side of the page to the left side of the page. So it's using rhythm to create that movement, but your eye is moving, and then with the lines, it feels like he is actually moving. All right. So it's kind of movement is also, it's kind of a separate thing, but it's so closely linked to this idea of rhythm. The principle of rhythm, or actually, no, through the principle of movement, the artist is able to guide the viewer's eye from one part of a painting to the next. Notice how the lines in John Baptiste Joseph Pater's painting, figure 5.9. Figure 5.9. We actually don't have that. It's actually in your emphasis and proportion worksheet. So if you'll look at that, 5.9 on page 86, or that principle, the emphasis and proportions worksheet. Carry your eye towards the girl in white. All the different shapes, all the different people. Take your eye to her. The trees and the people seem to be leaning toward her. Everything is kind of drawing, you know, pointing your eye to her. All right, so now the principle of rhythm. Have you ever found yourself tapping your fingers or feet to the beat of a song? Songs can have catchy rhythms. All right, we know that. We know that. We hear a song, all this pop song, pretty much a lot of the pop songs, you know, different rap songs, rock songs. The beat is the most important part. Okay. There's something in us that just kind of, you know, our head starts bobbing, something starts moving, we start tapping pencil or pen, da-dun, 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 da-dun. You know, we just pick it up, we pick it up. Sometimes it seems as though we can feel these rhythms as well as hear them. You know, that's what I'm saying. You know, you just start picking up the beat. In art, we feel the rhythms as well as see them, all right? So you see the rhythms in artwork. To the artist, rhythm is the repeating of an element to make a work seem active. No, it's not. Not according to the definition we're going to use. I'm sorry to throw you a curveball. That's a very important part. Yeah, that's a very important part. But that's not exactly. That's not what we're going. That's not what we're going to really talk about and to use this to talk about. It happens, you know, anytime you have rhythm in an artwork, there is this sense of action, but actual rhythm, it's similar to the idea of movement that's talked about on this page. Is rhythm, the definition we're going to talk about with the rhythm is rhythm, how the viewer's eye moves across the artwork. So how the viewer's eye moves across the artwork. Let's look back at that figure 513. You know, it's that rhythm. It's big circle on the bottom right, and then you move to the top, a little big circle on top of that. and then these lines take you to the shoulder of that guy, and then you see the hand, and then you see the head, and then you see that line. So it's moving you. It's circle, circle, elbow, shoulder, head, line. You know, that's the rhythm. It's your eyes taking you. It's bump, 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 and then you're across. Then you're already across the page, and you're moving. The guy's bicycling away. I mean, that's how it happens. That's how it happens. But it's these shapes instead of the beats. It's shapes. It's lines. It's colors. Look at figure 514 down here under the text, Jasper Johns. The artist uses rhythm to make this painting come alive. By carefully mixing shapes and colors, he gets your eye to move to the painting's beat. Again, he does, you know, there is an idea of movement, but it's because these lines, you know, you can pretty much start anywhere. My eye goes right to that purple. Some people might go to that orange and kind of move around, but my eye goes to that purple, and those lines, those blocks, just move you all over the place, all around the painting, all around the painting. Sometimes to create rhythm, like these lines and these circles, artists will repeat not just elements, but the same exact object over and over and over. When they do this, they create, when they do this, a pattern is formed. Okay, so pattern is a device that artists use to move your eye across. All right, so there you go. Now, 6th and 7th graders, you're going to answer the questions. Number your page, 1, 2, 3. First question is, what is movement? Tell me the definition, what is movement? Second question, what is rhythm? What is rhythm? Remember, we talked about that. What is rhythm? You got that definition. All right, and then third question, what does the artist create? Does an artist create by repeating an object over and over? Okay, what do they create? All right, 8th graders, 6th and 7th graders, you're done. 8th graders, same questions, all right, same questions, but you're not going to answer it, 1, 2, 3. You're going to write it in a paragraph form, full sentences, paragraph form. All right, guys. Hope I know it was a little hard. I kind of told you to forget about some of the things that you actually read, but not really forget, but to don't read it exactly the way that it talks about. But I hope everything made sense. I hope that when you see things, you start looking for that rhythm, and I will see you tomorrow. All right, bye.